Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how are you doing this week?
Doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing fantastic.
Yeah, the sun just came out here in Avon, and I hear that there's sunshine down in Middletown today because Facebook tells us that it's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Yes, it is. This is one of those days I'm feeling every year of it. It's,
Oh, well.
but yes. No, we are recording this podcast, and then I will do a little more work and then end my day early to have some fun.
That's good. Hopefully Mindy's paying.
Yes. Right. So this week we've got our special guest is Tina Lorentzen. Tina, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Eric, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Tina, you've got a really interesting background. So why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners, and then we will explore some of that.
Oh, well, thank you. So I am the business development manager with Cross Country Mortgage out of West Hartford. Before that, before COVID hit, I was the membership and events director for Connecticut River Valley Chamber, which is Glastonbury, East Hartford, and Marlborough. And I did that for 10 years, which is where I met both of you. And that was amazing. That was my favorite job ever. And then before that, I worked in radio for 10 years. So I was with CBS Radio, which was the TICs, RCH, ZMX Radio. And then I moved over to Clear Channel Radio, which is now iHeartMedia. And it was it was the River 105.9, Country 92.5, KISS 95.7, ESPN Radio, and the KCIs. And I did national sales for them after I was in the sales world for a little bit with them. So I've had quite the colorful background before the chamber and Cross Country Mortgage. Yeah.
Yes, you have. But it goes further back than that because you have a background in psychology and you worked with children, didn't you?
I do. So I always growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher. So I went to UConn, and I worked in their child labs as part of my work study program. And what the child labs is, they do the birth to 3 program. And I was in the 3-year-old room, and I got to work with some of their children, and I loved it. I absolutely loved working with those children. So I did my specialty with education as special ed. So I transferred from UConn to Eastern to get in the special ed or to get in the education program, and you needed a double major. So I had a major in psychology and special education. So right when I was about to wrap up my degree, I went and I did my student teaching at Keeney Street School in Manchester, and it was a little more emotional than I thought it was going to be. So when you're working with a 10 or 12-year-old with special needs versus a 3-year-old, it's very different. And I'm very emotional. So I would leave my student teaching and I would just cry the whole way home. And I kind of reevaluated things. And I said to myself, this is not something I want to do with the rest of my life. So I completed my student teaching, but I didn't get my degree in education. I just graduated with a psychology degree. And from there, I said, what am I going to do with myself? Because if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to do well at it. I just know my personality enough. And that's how I wound up in radio. So I wound up actually at WRCH, which was the CBS radio. And I was I was a sales assistant for them for about 3 months. And I was so bored sitting behind a desk. I really, really like to be around people. I get a high off of people. So I wound up getting into sales for 93.7, which was their sister station. So I did that for a couple years before getting into the national side of it. What they don't teach you in high school and college, and I wish they did, and they don't teach you in the sales training either, is networking. And they teach you how to cold call. They teach you how to pick up the phone. I would call Chip or I would call you, Eric, and say, this is Tina from 93.7. I would love to come in and talk to you about your advertising needs. And you guys don't know me from a hole in the wall, and you wouldn't want to talk to me or see me. But what I learned when I was at the chamber is warm introductions and networking and the value of that and the value of building relationships and how important that is. And it's so funny. I remember when I interviewed for my position at the chamber after leaving radio, I said to Mary Ellen, who was the chamber president of, it was the Glastonbury Chamber at the time, I said, I don't know what a chamber does. And she said, well, we're a membership organization. And I said, yeah, but I don't understand that. I don't understand what happens in a membership organization. She goes, well, we network. And I was like, yep, I don't get that either. And then I got it. I started running the leads groups. That's where Chip, you and I met at Sakura. We were doing the leads meetings. And I was like, oh, this is how this works. Like if I want to meet, Chip, if you were friends with Eric and I said, can I have an introduction to Eric? A warm introduction goes so much further than me just doing a cold call to Eric. So that's when I fell in love with the whole networking process and meeting people. And it's even now, like in my mortgage world, I've had a couple of my realtor firms ask me to come in and do speaking presentations on networking. So I'll go in and I'll give a whole presentation on like, this is how you network. So it's so crazy, like how far I've come. When I think of my first sales call and I used to go out and collect business cards on radio, I would have to do 20 business cards a day, to now I just literally network all day. And it's like the funnest job ever. Meeting people, it's so fun. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
People are usually very intimidated by networking. I mean, when I was forced into the networking world after my job was terminated back with the manufacturing company, I'd go to my first networking meeting and wow, it was kind of tough, but it's all about relationships and it grows on you. And it's funny you mentioned Light 100.5.
Yeah.
Is do you know Joan Dillon?
I do know Joan. I mean, she won't remember me because I was just a little like, they see a bunch of people come in and out, but I knew Joan. And how do you know her?
Well, Joan Dillon is the next door neighbor of a gentleman who used to be in my BNI network, Ed Driscoll, who did phone systems.
Okay.
And so Joan Dillon actually attended a couple of our BNI meetings because she is a wedding DJ and has her own business like that on the side.
Oh,
so that's
great.
how I met her. We don't see each other hardly at all, but we got to be good friends and have had a couple of really nice one-to-ones together and stuff. And in fact, she just hit me today saying congratulations on my work anniversary. And I have no idea what my work anniversary is, but
LinkedIn does.
I have no idea. It could be being born. I have no idea, but all of a sudden these things pop out at you. That's technology. So, but yeah, small world. And that's really some of the neat things out there is obviously what networking is all about is being prepared going there and having a good ask, and you never know who you're going to meet and all the great.
You never know. My favorite quote. So when I started this job, like it's different being on the chamber end when you're running an event, when you're working that front table with the clipboard and checking everybody in and welcoming everybody in. But when you're on the other end of it, when you actually have to go and network with everybody, I was like, ooh, this is a little bit different. So I was doing a seminar or one of the webinars about networking. And this quote stuck with me. It said, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I was like, okay. So every time I go to a networking event and I get a little, the butterflies in my stomach, I'm like, just do it. Go in because everybody feels the same way. Everyone's a little nervous. Just be comfortable being uncomfortable and go in and you're there to meet people and everybody wants to meet people. So I love that quote. I have it saved in my phone whenever I get a little, right?
Yeah, that is an absolutely correct quote because, we've all done a lot of networking presentations and I always tell people, don't tell them you're nervous because if you don't say it, they won't notice it. You know why? Because they're too busy being nervous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's hard to walk in that group by yourself. So it's good to get yourself a networking buddy.
No, I mean, some of the people who are the most outgoing, seemingly people that I've ever met in networking, they said, I'm nervous doing my commercial. And as Eric said, everybody is. But I also tell them, I said, nobody knows you're nervous until you tell us, number one. And number two, you know your message better than anybody out there. So even if you mess up, you're the only one that's going to know that too. So just keep that front of mind when you're out there networking.
Absolutely. But that makes you human too when you mess up. So I think it puts people at ease.
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what another like little nugget I learned on one of my networking calls was? So when you're not, let's say the three of us were at a networking event and you don't know what to speak with people about, like, when you first approach, it's called From. Have you heard of this?
No,
No.
what's this?
Okay, so this is what you ask, this is what you talk to people about. So it's from, it's family, recreation, occupation, and the message. So you always start off with asking people about your family, like, are you married? Do you have children? Do you have pets? Because that puts you on the same kind of level, like, oh, I also have, I have a daughter, I have a son, or I'm married, or I have a dog too, because it makes it more like human. Like, instead of, oh, okay, the CEO of a company, like, that's intimidating. But if we talk about, like, oh, okay, I have a wife too, or I have a husband too, or my kid just started kindergarten, this week, and he was really nervous, and you talk it and you show, like, the pictures of the kids on your phone, it puts people at ease. And then you talk about, so that's your F, and then you talk about the R, recreation. What do you like to do for fun? Oh, I love going to the beach. I spent my summer at the beach this weekend, or I do 5Ks, or I do this or that. You just find that commonality with somebody, and it just makes the conversation flow a lot easier. And then you go to your O. What do you do for a living? Okay, I work for Cross Country Mortgage. I do business development. My job is to meet people. And you just, it's just easy. It's always in your head. This is what I'm going to talk about with people. So you don't have to worry about, oh, what am I going to say? You always have it in your head. You know what you're going to say. And those are my, like, two networking nuggets, like, and it just makes it so much easier to go into meetings, like those big, like, business after hour settings, when you don't know people.
I love that. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And it's really true, because when you're talking about that, and if you can remember it, it's even more impactful.
Right,
When
it's so easy to remember, though, isn't it? From.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the first time. I'm talking about
Oh.
if you remember what what you've spoken about.
Oh.
When I was running networking events in South Windsor, we had somebody come to the event. It was their first time, and I'm talking with them. We're chatting, and his wife was pregnant. Well, he didn't come back for a while. When he came back, it was at least 6, 7 months later, and I had remembered the conversation. So one of the first things I said to him was, well, the last time you were here, your wife was pregnant. She must have given birth by now. He was so floored that I remembered that. And immediately we just started talking about his newborn child. And it made it so much easier for him. It's like, oh, okay, yes, I can talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about relationships. I mean, you both know that I was a BNI director, and they had what is called the gains profile. And this is working on yourself, but it's things to share with the people you're networking with, with one-on-ones and so on and so forth, and take notes about the people that you're, meeting out there. But what GAIN stands for, the G is for goals. So if you're sitting down one-on-one with each other, it's what your goals are individually for the business and that kind of stuff. Accomplishments, this is personal accomplishments and whatever else is going on. Interests, this is a big one, because the bottom line is, how many times have you connected with somebody else due to an interest that they have in common rather than business purposes? Maybe that they were in the same little league, or they both like horses, or this or that or whatever. And then what are your other networks outside of the network that you're at? So you could be a Rotary member, you could be going to church, you could be school PTO and those kind of things. And then the different skills that you have outside of what your job is. The bottom line is, the more you learn about each other, and it's very interesting to just ask questions about this, the easier it is to develop trust and that kind of thing, which is what's needed to start referring people to each other. So whether you're using From or whether you're using Gains, it's just great to have a way of getting to know people.
Absolutely. I love Gains. I've never heard of that one.
Yep. You can go look it up at bni.com probably.
See, you learn something new every day.
I wrote it down on the sticky. I wrote it down while Chip was talking.
Yeah, it's called the Gains profile. And basically, it was a form that you just filled this out in preparation for your meeting. So I used to share this when I was a director with people. This is how you prepare. So
Tina, in going over your background, you went from the radio to the chamber. Now you're in mortgage. So you bounced between for-profit and nonprofit. How did you make that adjustment, if there was one? And what did you find as the big differences in how they operate?
So I left out one little like speed bump in my career. So between radio and the chamber, I worked for the Cancer Society for 6 months. I was brought on as a contract position for their Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk, and they're a huge nonprofit. And radio is very corporate. It was great. It was fun job in your 20s. It was awesome, and I loved every minute of it. But corporate's tough. It's I'm not I'm not a political girl, if that's the proper way to put it. Um, I just am who I am, and you're gonna get me how you get me. So when I went to Cancer Society, I really liked the structure of like a board of directors. Um, and it was a lot more laid back than the whole corporate radio world, and I really liked that. I really liked just the format of it. So when my 6 month position was up at the Cancer Society, I wanted to stay in the corporate world. I'm sorry, the nonprofit world. So there's a website called Connecticut Nonprofit Alliance, and every week they'll send you jobs in the nonprofit world. And I'm from Bolton, and there was a job in Glastonbury for this chamber, which again I had no idea what they did. And I was like, well, let me apply for it because it's 10 minutes from my house, so who wouldn't want that? And I applied for it, and they brought me in for an interview. In my interview, I said to them, I'm like, I have no idea what you do, no idea what a chamber does, but they liked my background because in radio I did events for them. We used to put on big expos. I used to do all the promotions and stuff, so I was always doing events for the radio station plus the sales part of it. So they just fortunately they liked my background, and they liked me, and they hired me. But I love the nonprofit. If I could stay in the nonprofit world, I absolutely would. I like the setup of it. I like the board of directors feeling. I feel you have more say over a huge corporation. I like the smaller feel of it. That's why I like where I am right now. So we're a huge company cross country, but we're run on a branch level. So I have two guys who or three guys who run the branch, and we're run small. Like it's a small feel. I'm just a small girl from Bolton, like not a small girl, but I'm a girl from a small town. Like I grew up with the same 42 people from preschool to high school. Like I get very comfortable. I like my small. So that's why I loved the chamber. There was 5 of us, that worked in the office, and I knew them. They were my family. And then there was my chamber family. I had my group of ambassadors. There were my 30 ambassadors. The board of directors, they were, there was a group of 20. And then when we merged with East Hartford, we grew up to 40. But there were those same people. I just felt very comfortable. When you're in a corporate, you would get the big guy coming in from wherever he would come from. And I would get so nervous because I didn't know these people. So like in my position at the chamber and my position now at cross country, like I know everybody, and it really is that family feel. And I love that. So I think it's just my personality. I like the smaller feel. I like everybody working towards a common cause, like with the board of directors, and um, corporate to me is too big, and it like boggles my mind how big it can be. And I don't feel like you have a say in it. Where I think like at the chamber, my ideas were listened to. Like if I had a really cool idea for an event, I would bring it to Mary Ellen, and Mary Ellen would bring it to the board, and then it would happen. Like I wanted to do a food truck festival, and my marketing manager wanted to do a music festival. So we came up with this idea for Farm and Folk, and we literally did at the Elks Club. We had food trucks and we had music, and that was Farm and Folk Festival. So it was just like I feel like in a nonprofit or a littler company, you get to be heard more. Where in radio, I wouldn't have that. My voice wasn't heard like it was at the chamber. Same thing with here at cross country. Like I get to do, with my loan officers, I work with 4 amazing loan officers, and I come up with ideas for them. Like, let's do this for your realtors, or let's do that. I'm planning an event now for realtors the end of September. And they're like, Teen, just do whatever you want. Like, we trust you. You do events. This is you. Just do it. So I just like having more of a say than I think in corporate you get lost. You get lost in the shuffle. And I don't like to be lost in the shuffle. So I hope that answers your question. That was a long one.
Sure.
That was a long
That's okay.
But that is, I like to be like in the trenches and the nitty gritty, like just getting stuff done instead of being not being told what to do, because you're always in any job, your management tells you what to do, but like I like being on the deciding level of like how to do stuff.
You need to be more engaged.
Yeah, I love to be engaged. I love to be on the deciding level. Even with like the chamber with Apple Fest, like we decided to bring a beer garden in a few years into it. We decided to be open nights. Like I was a part of that. I was a part of like, I was on the obviously working there, but I was on the committee, and then we decided to I don't know, just bring different things in. Like we brought in something even silly, like we brought in a petting zoo, and we brought in this and that. Like I was a part of that, and I was making phone calls to bring people in. Like it was just so great to be like at the end of the day, like when Apple Fest was over, it was like we did that. Like that was us. That was us five. Like the feeling you get, like when a festival like that is over, it's amazing. Where like when you're in corporate, you don't get that feeling of like that was us. In corporate, it was like okay, another day is done, and you go home. So I just love it. Absolutely love it.
Great. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you've mentioned at least twice that when you
Mm-hmm.
had your interview with the chamber, you told them you did not know what a chamber does. And I
Yes.
think that's actually very common. So after 10 years of being with the chamber, for those of our listeners that don't actually know what a chamber of commerce does, can you sum it up for them?
Absolutely. So Mary Ellen and I, we sat through. So we would bring in 100 members a year. So 10 years, you figure I at least did 1,000 membership meetings. So this is what she would tell everybody: it's a membership organization. So that is her spiel. But this is what it is. It's a community where you get involved, and you create, and this is going to be another long-winded version, so I apologize. But it's like nothing else. I love chambers so much. So it really becomes a family. It becomes these group of people who support you, who will support your business, who will support you personally. It becomes this group of people working towards common goals, whether they're doing events, whether you're doing networking, you do networking meetings with the chamber. To survive has to do events, so we all become a part of like um, for example, a golf tournament. So Chip may volunteer at the golf tournament, I may play at the golf tournament, Eric, you may be running the golf tournament, but we all are working towards this common goal, and during that common goal you build these relationships like you're never going to have anywhere else. um, so it is, yeah. Is it a membership organization? Absolutely. It's also similar to a gym membership. So if you go to the gym, one, if you pay for a gym membership, are you a part of the gym? Yes. If you go to the gym, does the gym work for you? Yes. Does it help get you healthy? Yes. Does it help get you in shape? Yes. If you don't go to the gym, what happens? Nothing. If you don't become involved in the chamber, what happens? Absolutely nothing. So my advice for anybody who's joining a chamber: get involved. And you pick one thing and be consistent. Like, so for example, one of the chambers we're all a part of does a leads group, which is amazing, every Friday morning. Am I allowed to say chambers?
Yeah, you can say you
Okay,
can.
so the West Hartford Chamber is amazing. They have this amazing leads group every Friday morning at 7:30. And you go in and you like talk to the people at 7:15 to 7:45, and you get to know these people, and then you do your commercial, and then they do testimonials at the end. And if you go once, that's great. But if you go every week and you're consistent, people actually get to know you. So if you're going to be a part of a chamber, my advice is be consistent and then volunteer. The best thing you can do is get involved. And again, that's how you meet people, and you work again towards like on these committees, and you work towards common goals, and you just become a part of this like little chamber family, and there's nothing like it. Like you can do BNI groups, you can do breakfast clubs, you can do, there's 6 degrees, you can join rotaries, and but like there's nothing like a chamber to form relationships, because again, everybody wants to help everybody. As soon as you come into like these meetings, you see, like, my favorite thing is I come into the chamber meeting, my first little chat pops up, and it's from you, Eric. Good morning, Tina. And you always beat me every time, but everyone is just so nice. Like everybody in chambers, they're just happy you're there. They're happy to make a relationship with you, and they're happy to like make introductions for you. Everyone is giving. I've yet to come across, I mean, takers, and that's a whole other conversation is givers and takers, but everyone is just giving. They want to help you. They want to make introductions for you. They want to do warm introductions for you. I've yet to reach out to somebody in a chamber and say, can we meet for coffee? If nobody ever says no, maybe they want to do Zoom because of what's going on right now in the world, but everyone is just so kind and so giving. And if I say, do you know, like I need to meet realtors in my where I am right now, with cross country, absolutely, I know a realtor, and I get a nice warm email introduction. Let me introduce you to who I know, and I do it in return. But it's just a place to build relationships. And again, I'm sorry it's so long winded, but I
That's
can't say
quite
enough.
all right.
I can't say enough
And
about chambers, and we
I
have
mean, all of
amazing
that,
ones in our area.
yeah, all of that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with networking, where
Yep.
it's the difference between having a relationship and doing a cold call.
Absolutely. And the first thing I did when I started at cross country is immediately joined West Hartford Chamber, immediately got us involved. We were already members of Connecticut River, immediately got us more involved in there. I joined two other chambers in our area and said, let's just get us involved because that's just how you grow your business. It's an easy way to grow your business.
Yeah, the one thing that separates chambers from, like a BNI or other smaller membership organizations, yeah, chamber is a membership organization, but in any membership organization like a chamber, there are a whole lot of people in there. So opportunity knocks. The chamber is full of resources for you, and all you got to do, as you say, is get involved. Go to networking meetings, go there
Yep.
prepared, and so on and so forth. And don't be intimidated by it because everybody else is like you, as we talked about it. And now, with these meetings every Friday morning, there's actually an advantage to doing this on Zoom. Where when COVID hit, I used to run the meetings when we had 70 people at the library, and it was great. But that 7:30 to 7:45 time period, how many people can you talk to when there's 70 people in a room in 15-minute span? And what Zoom is doing right now is every Friday morning we have the Hollywood Squares of the West Hartford Chamber, 30 or 40 members talking about God knows what for 15 minutes before we get there. But we talked about and we talked about gains, and what we're doing there is we're getting to know each other. And we're
Absolutely.
setting up appointments, and it's never been easier to do that. And that's what it's all about. In any membership organization, basically it's an opportunity, but as you said, you have to get involved. And it's so cool that you've told us about all the different ways you've gotten involved in that and all the other organizations that you were with too.
Yeah, you know what I think is really important too is getting involved in nonprofits and just giving back where you don't get anything. And I think that is so important too. Just be a giver wherever you can, like the Cancer Society or Food Share or Alzheimer's. Just give to them because that always comes back. So I think that's really important too.
And that is a great thought to end on because we're just about out of time. So,
Oh,
Tina, if somebody wants to learn more about cross country mortgage or anything else you've talked about, how can they do so?
call me. The best way to do is call me. So my cell is 860-992-5200. And like I said, I say to all this all the time. I would love to meet anybody for coffee or happy hour. I love a good happy hour, but I am always available. So please reach out.
Great. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for this week?
I think the big takeaway is I hope you took down Tina's phone number because she's serious about that. And you definitely need to get together with her to talk about all the wonderful things that are going on. And really, I think she'll pull a lot of creativity out of you too, because obviously you've gotten a lot of it in you and have really, really helped out a lot of people with it. So wonderful to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could do this. I think for me, the takeaway is get involved. Everything you've talked about was getting involved in chambers, getting involved in nonprofits. The more you give, the more you get out of it. And I think that's so important for everybody, especially in a world like we're in right now where things are a little topsy turvy.
Absolutely. Yep, I can't stress that enough. It's just to be involved.
So thank you for being our guest this week.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us on the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.